Hello everyone, welcome to our webinar today. I'm Nicole Mirabelli, a Senior Business Advisor at CallSource. I am also joined by Cassie Saiprina, a fellow Business Advisor at CallSource.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today.
Today is our second part in our webinar series, Preparing for a Peak Season. I am going to encourage you to call into today's meeting. We would like this to be an interactive webinar, so please use the telephone option under the audio section of your dashboard. This webinar will also be recorded and we'll provide the recording to you after we finish today. So let's go ahead and get started. Busy periods can present unique challenges for you as an owner and for your team. It's easy to look down the calendar and feel overwhelmed. Instead of just keeping your head above water, there are ways to prepare and maximize your efforts. It should go without saying that taking the time to properly prepare for busy periods can help alleviate problems and improve performance. But we understand as owners or leaders in your business, you are already wearing multiple hats. When it comes to managing day-to-day operations, you have the urgent and you have the important. In this webinar, we will discuss ways CallSource can help you prepare for the demand of a peak season by identifying your business's constraint points during this peak season, using CallSource reporting to analyze phone traffic and outcomes, and implementing our actionable analytics to save time and improve performance. So how can you prepare? First thing you want to do is your homework. It is difficult to prepare for a peak season unless you have an idea of expected volumes. Keep in mind, your business's peak season may not be as obvious as the retail industry during the holidays. For example, an audiologist can expect a boost in volume in May for Better Hearing Month, or a dentist may see a back-to-school rush in August, or maybe your business spikes after tax season or at the end of the year when patients are taking advantage of expiring insurance benefits. So with that in mind, we would like to propose a question for you to get an understanding of when your peak period is in your office. So you're going to see a poll on your screen. If you could take a minute to answer, what is the busiest time of year for your business? Now answers are anonymous, so feel free to select the best option. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share the results. Okay, so it looks like it's pretty split here with a majority of you seeing a spike in winter, because it is going to be important for you to understand the cycles in your industry in order to navigate those seasonal fluctuations. Historical and forecast volume data provides insight into when those peaks are expected. Start the preparation process by reviewing CallSource analytics to see when you saw a spike in volume and how you've previously performed. Our reporting can provide transparency on your marketing as well as your appointment conversion. So for example, say you have peak calls in May, but your conversion dropped like in this example. This may be an indication that you are at scheduling capacity, or perhaps your team was not able to properly handle the increase in call volume. Additional research will be needed to identify what prevented you from converting those appointments. This data will allow you to establish expectations for success in the upcoming peak season. In addition, with CallSource's wealth of industry data, you can also benchmark your business against your peers. Comparing KPIs to industry targets can be an incentive to drive productivity and preparation needed to exceed those industry averages. The next thing you want to do is plan ahead. The sooner you start to prepare for the influx of volume, the better equipped you'll be to handle it. Peak season should be viewed as a mini organizational change and treated as such. Operations are potentially different, and everyone's attention should be focused on meeting peak season demand and achieving success. A business that can understand how their operation and employees are performing against goals via real-time data can be extremely valuable at any time, but especially during peak periods when efficiency becomes so critical. For certain businesses, this can be a crucial make or break portion of the year. Other businesses may have peak seasons based on various events or timing. For example, a specific campaign may promote an upcoming educational event, such as a seminar or lunch and learn. But no matter the reason, if a business is to succeed, the peak season must be managed as efficiently as possible. And as the busy season starts, having the ability to monitor operations will ensure that projected goals are met or that necessary adjustments are made. Reporting and analytics tools are essential during peak periods. Proceeding through this peak time without proper visibility into call volume, staffing needs, or appointment capacity doesn't allow the organization to flex and proactively address concerns. CallSource reporting will help document your efforts and streamline your performance measurement. We can give you that transparency. With the peak season approaching, also look out for automation opportunities that reduce manual effort. Many CallSource reports can be set up to be delivered via email, or we offer programs that can alert you when a prospect call did not successfully convert into an appointment within hours of that initial phone call, allowing you to stay ahead of your competitors and make outbound call attempts. For more information or to get started, feel free to reach out to your dedicated CallSource representative. By reviewing metrics, you can identify improvement opportunities and set goals for success. It will be important to listen to your calls also in order to determine if your patients are receiving the ideal experience. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Cassie to talk to you about some tips to what to specifically listen for during this peak season time.
Thanks, Nicole. So in our last webinar, How to Assess Your Team's Calls, we discussed how to use call recordings as a tool for performance improvement. During a peak period, there are some additional important things for you to listen for. One of those is, do your call handlers sound rushed or distracted? Listen specifically to the greeting. Is the business name and caller's name clearly stated? If this greeting is poorly handled, you may have already lost your potential patient, as your greeting sets the tone for the entire call. Another thing to listen for is, are your call handlers still presenting value? When the volume picks up, it is easy to turn into order takers. Make sure your team is conveying the integrity and worth of your business in order to differentiate you from your competitors. It is also going to be important to determine why calls are not being converted. Do they have to take messages and call the patient back? Are you at scheduling capacity? I have a client who once had a call handler who thought they were doing the right thing by taking it upon themselves to determine the schedule was too packed and the doctor was too busy to want any new patients, when in reality, the doctor would have moved things around to take more appointments. While the call handler had good intentions, this caused the office to lose out on some potential new patients. So the lesson here is, by identifying why appointments are not being set, you can properly coach your team on how to handle the situation. Back to you, Nicole.
Thank you, Cassie. Those are great tips. And if you want some more information on how to apply those principles that Cassie spoke about, again, reach out to your dedicated CallSource representative to talk it through. And those of you who are just starting with CallSource, pay close attention to the metrics that you're gathering now to plan ahead for next year. And call listening is going to be an important part of that, because that's going to be the lens into your business that you wouldn't have had otherwise. And organized data collection is going to be essential to understanding the results and then learning from them. When peak season has come and gone, it's important to conduct a thorough review, because you want to repeat what worked and minimize what didn't. So next up is, we want to examine our staffing. If you are not properly prepared, you may find that you're short on staff, or team members struggle with increased call volume or workloads during busy periods. When it comes to staffing up though, don't just add bodies, create a plan. A wave of inexperienced staff arriving as volume goes up typically leads to mistakes, excessive demands on managers, and potentially some lost patients. You want your staff to be effective, not just present when the pressure increases. The best results come from closely evaluating the process to determine how it can be modified to streamline the work. CallSource reporting will provide an analysis of your business's peak days and times to help you identify patterns in your call volume and therefore staff appropriately. When analyzing your data, think about the following. What day of the week are you receiving the most prospect phone calls, or what time? Or what day or time are you experiencing the most missed opportunity phone calls? And do you have the appropriate staff on the schedule for these times? And again, by appropriate staff, we're not just saying, are people picking up the phone, but do you have your frontline staff on the phone during that peak time in order to make the most of those prospect phone calls when they come in? Do they know their goal is to set the appointment, and are they incentivized to do so? By evaluating when those calls are coming in, you can make sure you're putting your best foot forward and making the most of those phone calls and giving a great impression when those calls start to pour in. Next, we're going to talk about calendar blocking. Time stressors are some of the most universal sources of pressure in the workplace, and they happen as a result of having too much to do in too little time. Your workload is already high and you have other urgent tasks on your to-do list. Because of this, you're probably anxious, you can't concentrate, and everything seems to distract you. And the last thing you want to do is communicate to the patient on the other end of the phone call that's calling for help that they've distracted your day. But you're probably looking down at your calendar and feeling like you couldn't possibly add one more thing, but you should. Setting aside specific time in your schedule to work on certain tasks will help you manage your workload, especially during a peak season. Knowing exactly what to do and when will help you feel much more in control of your tasks. And time management means being effective as well as efficient. By blocking time on your calendar, you can clear enough time to do what's essential for your success. You can stay on track of your business growth goals and not just handle everything that's coming in. This will maximize your chances of keeping on track and will help you avoid the stress of work becoming more urgent than necessary. This is a way that you can move from firefighting into a position where you can maximize and grow your business. Be sure to also block out time at least once per week to log into CallSource. Even if you just invest 30 minutes per week reviewing metrics, you are empowered to influence your conversion rate during the course of each month by ensuring that required changes are implemented. So based on what you hear as you're logging in and reviewing your metrics, because if you're trying to do everything all at once, it can be overwhelming. But we want you to focus in on just those metrics that matter to your business. And by doing this at least once a week, that makes it manageable, and you can make sure that you are influencing your bottom line. It's also going to be important to invest in frequent team meetings, even during the busiest of times. It's very easy to fall into bad habits when everyone feels pressed for time. As Cassie mentioned before, something as simple as your greeting can be fluffed off or said very quickly when you answer the phone call, and that's really going to set the tone, as she mentioned. You do not want the goals you have set for your business and your team to be disregarded because leadership is too busy to monitor and follow up on that progress. Another tip is to try to have time slots when you're available open on your calendar so that people know that they can speak with you at that time. Or you could arrange regular meetings with maybe some of those individuals who interrupt you more often. This way you can deal with their issues at once and it's not a constant interruption or distraction throughout your day. You'll then be able to concentrate on your important activities for longer. When reflecting on what we discussed today, think about what CallSource and performance measurement can teach you to streamline your operations and efficiencies. What were the lessons learned? Were there any major problems that need to be resolved for the future? If so, identify and develop a plan to take action and set dates for a resolution. And you don't have to do this alone. You have a team here at CallSource that can help you work out that plan, identify those areas of opportunity for improvement so you can set yourself up for success moving forward. It's important to ask questions and do a careful evaluation of what worked and what didn't at the conclusion of your busy season so that all areas of the business know how their department performed and what can be improved upon. So with that, we would like to thank you for joining us today and encourage you to attend our next session, Managing Business Constraints. So look out for communication on that. It's going to be very related to a lot of the things that we talked about today as far as identifying constraints in your business and focusing on the metrics that matter so you can use them and they become actionable analytics within your office. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand on the dashboard and I can unmute your microphone, or feel free to type your question in the question box and I can address it for the group.
Nicole, I have a question that I think some of our audience may have.
Sure.
So you mentioned that clients should be reviewing historical call source analytics to determine when their peak seasons are for those that are unsure. What specific report would you suggest they view to see this trending data?
That's a great question, Cassie. So as far as specifics, I would recommend using our owner summary report. Now, those of you who may have been in practice for a while, you're probably vaguely aware that there's a rhythm to the year. Tuning into these rhythms can help you manage your time and talents and resources and add to your bottom line. But reporting, such as the owner summary report, can help you support your theories and help you make informed decisions based on your volume. So you're not just guessing as to what you're feeling is happening. You can be prepared and see that volume increase coming. This report, specifically the owner summary report, will provide month-over-month trending for both your prospects and appointments. So now I know we talked a lot today about your peak season, what to do when the volume is going to be increasing, but it can also give you insight as to what's going to happen when your volume starts to slow down. You can make adjustments based on your slow time too, or plan ahead to use that time, maybe when the summer months come up and a lot of people are taking vacations, maybe they're not making as many appointments as they typically do. You can use that time for strategy within your office and make sure that you're planning ahead for the future. To dive into that report in more detail, feel free again to reach out to your CallSource representative. We'd be happy to go through it with you and talk a little bit more about what's happening within your business and what we're seeing on our end. Okay, it looks like a question came in our question box, and this comes from Tim. He asked, what metrics should I look at if I'm logging in once a week? So that's a great question too. So not just specific to what reports you should look at. The metrics I would recommend that you take a look at are going to be your peak days and times, and our traffic analysis report can give you that information. It will give you an at-a-glance view of your call flow in busy times. It will also let you know if calls are being missed. When analyzing your missed calls, you want to think about, why are these calls not making it to my office? Do I have enough lines for calls to make it in, or is there a capacity issue? Or maybe perhaps your call handlers are spending too much time on the phone. Or again, we talked about staffing. If you're missing phone calls, you may need to boost or increase your staffing in order to handle that volume. I also recommend that you focus on the metrics that tell you the calls that did not successfully convert into an appointment. Those are going to be your missed opportunity phone calls. These calls will give you insight as to what objections your team is receiving on the phone so that you can coach your team on how to anticipate those responses and then respond accordingly moving forward. So it's an ongoing development and coaching opportunity, but if you focus on those metrics, it can help you manage that once a week login and make it much more manageable. And it's going to be a constant process. Once you work on something and set goals for improvement, you're going to want to move on to something else. But it's going to be very specific to your business, and our CallSource team can help you identify that and help you set a plan and action steps needed. Now, if you do think of any other questions, feel free to let us know. We'd love to hear your feedback, and we hope to see you in an upcoming session. Again, next up is going to be managing business constraints. Thank you all again for your time today, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.